Nearly 73 years ago, in the aftermath of the Pearl Harbor attack that catapulted the United States into World War II, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt called a meeting in Washington. He invited the chief executives of all the automobile companies in America to come meet with him in Washington to talk about the transition, and brought them in and said, "Gentlemen, we're at war, and as I'm sure you understand, we need to transition the entire industrial capacity of the US economy to war production." And the executive said to him, "Mr. President, we understand that. We knew that that was what you wanted. We've come prepared. We have transition plans. We're going to convert our entire manufacturing capacity to armaments production within 9 months." And President Roosevelt looked at them and said, "You don't understand. You're out of the automobile industry now." What happens when we make changes that we absolutely have to make? Now, for years our national leadership has been asleep at the wheel on this issue. Humans aren't very good at adapting to slowly manifesting crises. Maybe we've seen some shift in leadership in the last day. Hopefully. Hopefully we're starting to wake up. But it's new. National leadership's been asleep at the wheel. Cities have not been asleep at the wheel. Cities have been leading this revolution for decades with the work of Greg Nichols in Seattle and the Mayor's Conference on Climate Protection and ICLEI and many other organizations. Some of you may know that I have recently changed teams in this revolution. Changed teams, I haven't changed sides. After 25 years of helping major brands uncover the multi-billion-dollar opportunity that opens up when you look at business guided by purpose and guided by the 3.8 billion years of open source research and development that's been provided to us by Earth Living Systems, massive opportunity opens. So why would I step down as CEO of Natural Logic, which by the way continues to do this good work? Well, I thought about this for a long time, and I wanted to shift from uncovering opportunities to delivering on those opportunities. As I put it to my best friends, I want to shift from selling advice for a living to being hands on the wheel and ass on the line. And so now as Chief Sustainability Officer for the city of Palo Alto, charged with helping an iconic city improve quality of life, build prosperity, and improve resilience, and do all this by improving sustainability, resilience, regeneration. So I'm 6 months into that, and it's an amazing platform, as you might imagine. It's a place where innovation is at the heart of the business culture. Not just companies like HP. The HP garage is a real garage. It's 3 blocks from my office. Not just a place where impossible just isn't in the business vocabulary, because we invent new things every day. It's a city that has aspirations to do remarkable things. We have a municipal utility. The city itself provides electricity, natural gas, water, wastewater, and fiber, which means not only we have a hand in all those, but we have the data for all that, a powerful piece of leverage. We, as of last year, delivering carbon neutral electricity to our entire community of 67,000 people, 90,000 employees, companies like Hewlett-Packard and VMware and SAP and others. And an aspiration to do something great. So I'm there to do the kind of work that many of you are doing inside an organization to help transform what we do and how we do it. So let me just say a few words about Reimagine. As Rich said, there's an opportunity to focus on what we want, not just on what we don't want. But how far do we go with this? President Obama and EPA yesterday called for a 30% reduction in carbon emissions by 2030. The usual chorus attack this as being impossible and unrealistic and uneconomic. Well, Palo Alto's 29% down from 2005 emissions now. And facing the question of, well, what do we do? Do we declare victory? We're well ahead of everybody else. Is that good enough? Or what's possible? 80% by 2050, 80% by 2030, 100% by 2025. So we're launching into an exercise not to just dismiss those out of hand, but to ask what would it actually take to achieve any of those trajectories. Then once we know what it would take, then we can make the decision about which direction we're going to choose, not dismiss it out of hand in the abstract. How? We don't know yet. More than 50 years ago, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy called on the nation to land a man on the moon within 10 years and bring him back alive. NASA didn't know how to do that mission. It reverse engineered the mission. It stood in success and looked backward and worked backward 1 year at a time to be able to bridge the impossible gap from what we know now to where we know we have to go. Arthur C. Clarke said the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. So the process of setting unreasonable goals is one of the generative forces in design. Redesign. Those of you who've heard me speak before know that I've been saying for years that sustainability is fundamentally about design. It's a design conversation. Sustainability equals design equals innovation. I go to the Apollo mission again for the source here, guided by not just the engineers, but by the organizational development team at NASA. They created a department of it can't be done, and any impossibility was translated into a design specification that was trotted across the hall to the department of it can't be done and asked, please invent this. And within sometimes 6 months or sometimes 6 days, the invention would come back 3,000 times. NASA invented new technologies that enabled that moon mission, 3,000 things that couldn't be done until they could. What are ours? In the case of Palo Alto, what stands between us now at a 29% reduction and an 80% reduction is two big looming things. One is natural gas. So we're going to fuel switch the city, or at least explore fuel switching the city, taking us. Remember the past of all electric homes? We said, no, not all electric, coal, dirty, let's do natural gas. Well, now we need to swing the pendulum back and go from polluting natural gas to clean, renewable electricity across a whole city. And the second looming challenge is transportation. Not just commuting, but the driving around town, which is more than half of our transportation footprint. How do you reinvent that in a city that's got a suburban form inherited from the 1950s and 60s? How do you create a city not where you ban cars, but where cars are no longer necessary or even wanted? It's a big ask. We don't know how to do that, but we know that if that's the trajectory, we have to take that on. Regenerate. My mentor, Buckminster Fuller, used to talk about true wealth as forward days survival capacity, about building the regenerative capacity of the living systems that sustain the human economy. J.I. Rodale, decades ago, coined the term regenerative agriculture as something much more profound than sustainable agriculture, something that actually grows wealth, doesn't just sustain it. And we know that key to this is collaboration. There's been some conversation about that yesterday. I'm sure there'll be more over the next couple of days. How do we collaborate? How do we play well together and creatively and inventively? How do cities collaborate with companies? What's the new form for public-private partnerships? What about eco-districts as pilot innovation zones for intense and admittedly radical innovation within cities that can be experimented and then scaled? How do we regenerate our governance systems? What are the new rules that we need in governance, both in organizations, in companies, and in policy to adapt to the realities that we're facing now? What are the rules, as April talked about last night, that build trust? What are the rules that enable agility in a massively innovative time in human history? What are the rules that enable us to get the prices right? And lay to rest once and for all the myth of externalities. So this morning is designed to set the tone for the week, to explore ways that business can reimagine and redesign and regenerate. And as Coanne prompted last night, we've asked the speakers to ask bold what ifs, to inspire us to think big. Here are mine. What if? What if you could build a company that was renewable resource-based, circular systems, detoxified, decarbonized, inclusive, agile, and profitable? What if you could build a planet like that? What if you had to? Because I would suggest we do.